The galaxy had watched humanity for centuries, quietly observing the small blue planet spinning in a quiet corner of the Milky Way. To most civilizations, humans seemed fragile, primitive, and weak. They were soft, unarmored, and unaware of the greater dangers that lurked in the vast cosmos. Yet, there was something in their curiosity, in their stubborn persistence, that no other species had shown. That curiosity had caught the attention of the Council of Stars, the most powerful and oldest coalition of galactic civilizations. They decided it was time to test humanity. The first signs of their arrival were subtle. Stars shimmered oddly in the night sky, and strange patterns appeared near the edges of the solar system. Then, without warning, enormous ships emerged from the darkness. These were not ordinary vessels. They were immense, shining with unknown energies, moving with elegance and precision that defied human understanding. Each ship was a fortress, yet it shimmered with a beauty that made even the most advanced Earth telescopes seem insignificant. The leaders of the galaxy's great civilizations had chosen their best, the peace envoys. They were emissaries trained in diplomacy, negotiation, and, if necessary, intimidation. Their mission was clear: deliver a warning to humanity. The humans had grown too fast, too unpredictable, and too reckless. They were on a path that could disturb the fragile balance of the galaxy, and the Council of Stars would not allow that to happen. On Earth, people were unaware of the momentous event unfolding above them. Cities bustled with life. Children laughed in playgrounds, farmers tended their fields, and engineers worked tirelessly in factories and labs. Humanity had grown strong, creative, and clever, but they were still blind to the universe's vast dangers. And yet, somewhere deep inside, there was an instinctive feeling of unease, a sense that the stars themselves had turned their gaze upon them. The Envoys' first transmission reached Earth through every channel, every network, every communication device. Their voices were calm, melodic, yet carried an authority that made the air feel heavy. "Humans of Earth," they said, "we are the Council's envoys. We come with a warning. Your civilization teeters on the edge of destruction. Your recklessness could bring devastation not only to your planet but to others. Submit to the Council's guidance or face consequences beyond your understanding." Governments froze. Scientists stared at monitors in disbelief. Citizens listened in fear, confusion, and awe. Many thought it was a hoax, an elaborate simulation, or some elaborate alien propaganda. But the ships in orbit, massive and impossibly real, left no doubt. Humanity was being confronted by something far greater than themselves. Amid fear, a strange emotion stirred among humans: defiance. Unlike other species the galaxy had encountered, humans did not immediately bow to superior power. They hesitated, calculated, and then, in their own chaotic way, they prepared. Scientists raced to monitor the ships, understanding every signal, decoding every pattern. Military leaders strategized, not out of hatred, but out of necessity. Ordinary people felt the stirrings of pride. They were alive on this planet, and they were determined to survive. In the dark void above Earth, the envoys watched closely, expecting submission, confusion, and panic. What they did not expect was the human spirit. It was bright, fierce, and unpredictable. In the centuries to come, the galaxy would remember this moment, not for humanity's weakness, but for its courage. The blue planet, tiny and fragile, glowed like a jewel in the vast night, defying expectations, daring the universe to truly understand it. The arrival of the envoys marked the beginning of a story that would change the galaxy forever. And as humans gazed up at the silent, glowing ships above, none of them could yet know that this encounter would reveal a power beyond imagination. Power not only to survive, but to astonish the galaxy itself. On Earth, the news of the envoys' arrival spread like wildfire. Panic swept across cities, towns, and villages. Yet amid the fear, determination began to rise. Humanity had been pushed to its limits many times before, through wars, disasters, and struggles against nature. But Never like this. Never with the entire galaxy watching. Governments convened emergency councils, scientists rushed to research stations, and military leaders gathered in bunkers deep beneath the Earth's surface. Every mind turned toward a single goal: how to respond to beings that seemed more like gods than creatures. The envoys, meanwhile, watched patiently from above. They expected to see trembling leaders, trembling citizens, desperate for mercy. But what they observed was different. Humans moved with purpose, talking, debating, planning. They were small, fragile, and seemingly insignificant, but in their eyes the envoys saw something they had rarely witnessed in the galaxy: courage, defiance, an unyielding spark that refused to be extinguished. Hidden in the vast reaches of space beyond the moon and deep in orbit around Mars, humans had been quietly building. Ships that defied light, weapons that harnessed forces the envoys could only study as theory, shielding that could withstand energies beyond comprehension. Humanity's engineers and scientists had not waited for the universe to judge them. They had prepared in silence, quietly mastering the very secrets the galaxy thought impossible. As meetings continued on Earth, a young commander named Admiral Elena Reyes studied the envoys' transmissions. She felt a mixture of awe and fear, yet also a deep certainty. "We cannot show weakness," she told her team, "but we also cannot strike without reason. They must see who we are before we act." Her words echoed across the control room, carrying both command and hope. When the decision was finally made, it was simple yet shocking. Humanity would respond, not with submission, but with presence. The message, sent in code across the cosmos, was brief. "We are ready. Come see." It carried no threat, no plea for mercy, only certainty. The envoys received it and paused. Some laughed softly, dismissively. A species this small, this unrefined, dared to speak with confidence to the Council of Stars. Surely, they thought, this would end in failure. But humans were not reckless. They understood their place, and yet they refused to be underestimated. Around Earth, fleets began to assemble. Not vast armadas by galactic standards, but enough to convey a warning, a statement. Humanity was awake, aware, and no longer naive. The ships moved with precision, engines glowing, weapons ready but inactive. Their presence alone challenged the assumptions of the galaxy's most powerful civilizations. The envoys observed every detail. The ships shimmered, pulsing with energies they had once thought impossible. And yet even more astonishing than the technology was the discipline. Humanity was chaotic in life, perhaps, but in war and defense they were meticulous. They had studied, adapted, and prepared. They were small, yes, but they were formidable. And then came the human voice. Through a universal translator, calm and steady, Admiral Reyes spoke. "We do not seek war. We do not ask for permission. We ask only to be seen as equals. If you wish to judge us, judge what we do, not what you think we might do." Her words, clear and confident, cut through the silence of space. The envoys were stunned. They had expected fear, confusion, begging, even chaos, but not this. Humanity had shown courage and composure, qualities the galaxy considered rare. For the first time, the Council realized that humans were not like other civilizations. Their strength was not in size, not in numbers, not in raw power, but in something far more dangerous: unpredictability and the refusal to submit. Across the world, people watched the night sky, unaware of the full magnitude of the moment. Somewhere, deep in the hearts of millions, there was pride, fear, and a quiet hope. Humanity had taken its first step onto a path that no species before them had walked. The galaxy had sent peace envoys to warn them, but in response humans had prepared to show a power it could not yet imagine, and the universe would never see them the same way again. The day the human fleets emerged from orbit, the galaxy watched, in disbelief. Small by cosmic standards, the ships glimmered with a strange, quiet power. Thousands of vessels, arranged with precision that defied their apparent fragility, formed a line of silent challenge in the darkness. Their engines pulsed softly, like hearts beating in unison, and their weapons hummed with restrained energy. The humans did not attack. They only stood ready. Above them, the Envoys' massive ships activated shields and weapons that could obliterate entire worlds. Light flared along the hulls, and energy rippled like invisible waves in space. The Council of Stars had prepared for this confrontation for centuries. They expected chaos, fear, and begging from a planet so young and inexperienced. They had never faced a species that did not tremble before overwhelming power. The first voice to speak came from the lead human commander, Admiral Elena Reyes. Calm, confident, yet carrying authority that demanded attention, she addressed the envoys. "We do not seek war, we do not threaten you, we only ask to be seen as equals. Judge us not by the size of our fleets, but by our will, our courage, and our choices." The envoys laughed softly. They had seen countless civilizations fall under the weight of threats far smaller than these. This species dared to speak to them unafraid and in such a simple human voice. One envoy whispered to another, "They are tiny. They cannot understand the danger they face. It is amusing." But the amusement soon faded. One human ship, larger than the others, moved forward, alone, its hull glow, then inner light, as if it carried the soul of the planet within it. From its bridge, a scientist broadcast images of Earth, its oceans, forests, mountains, deserts, and cities filled with life. Every moment of human existence flashed across the screens of the envoys' ships. "These are our people," the scientist said, her voice steady and proud. "We do not conquer for glory. We do not destroy for pride. We survive, and in survival, we learn. We create. We unite. Witness what we have become when faced with challenges that test every limit of our species." Then came the demonstration. Without warning, the human fleets began maneuvers that seemed impossible. Ships vanished in blinding bursts of light, only to reappear elsewhere in perfect formation. Gravity fields shifted, guiding small asteroid clusters harmlessly around the fleet. Energy pulses surged outward, not to harm but to protect simulated planets from catastrophic destruction. Every move was precise, yet breathtaking. The envoys were stunned. They had believed humans were weak, fragile, and chaotic. And yet here, they were, small beings controlling forces the galaxy thought untouchable. Their technology alone was astonishing, but their discipline, restraint, and coordination revealed something deeper. Humanity had not only mastered the unimaginable, they had chosen not to abuse it. Admiral Reyes spoke again, addressing the envoys personally. "You ask why we wield such power. We do not wield it for war. We wield it to protect life, to create, to survive. Our power is meaningless if it destroys what we cherish. That is the difference between humanity and civilizations that conquer for conquest alone." Silence filled space. The envoys whispered among themselves, their confidence shaken. They had never faced a species like this, a species that could wield unimaginable power yet insist on mercy, reason, and compassion. Unpredictable, unstoppable in ways that defied understanding. The galaxy had come to judge humans, but now it was uncertain who truly held the upper hand. From Earth, people watched the night sky, feeling only a faint sense of the truth. Humanity had shown that it was not weak, that it could stand, that it could face the unknown without fear. And the galaxy had begun to realize that this small blue world might not only survive its first encounter, it might change the rules of the universe itself. The test was not over, but already, the envoys understood one thing. Humans were unlike any other species, and in their quiet defiance, in their restraint and courage, they had begun to write a story that would echo across the stars for generations. As the human fleet held its formation in the dark expanse of space, the envoys could no longer deny the truth. These beings, small and fragile in appearance, possessed a power that stretched the limits of imagination. And yet what amazed the envoys even more was the way humanity chose to use it, not recklessly, not for destruction, but with careful, deliberate restraint. From the lead human ship, a soft hum of energy spread across the fleet. It was as if the ships themselves were alive, responding to the will of the humans aboard. Commander Elena Reyes and her officers coordinated movements with quiet precision, every ship shifting and turning in perfect synchrony. The envoys, who had studied warfare for centuries, watched in stunned silence. They had never seen discipline, mixed with creativity in such a way. Then the humans revealed something the envoys could not ignore. Holographic projections of Earth appeared above the lid ship, showing not just cities or landmarks but the lives of every person on the planet. Children laughing in playgrounds, farmers tending fields, doctors saving lives, artists creating beauty. Entire slices of humanity's existence flashed across space. The images were accompanied by a simple message. This is what we protect. This is why we fight. This is why we survive. The envoys felt something they had never experienced before. A deep, unsettling respect. They realized that humanity's power was not merely technological. It was emotional, moral, and spiritual. Humans had endured hardships the galaxy could scarcely imagine, wars, famine, natural disasters, and yet they had not only survived, they had grown stronger. Their strength was forged in adversity, and it shone now like a beacon in the cold void of space. Then came the demonstration of power. A group of human ships activated an energy field that enveloped a nearby asteroid belt. The rocks, some the size of small cities, floated harmlessly in suspended motion, defying gravity. Another human vessel projected a field that redirected a swarm of meteors on a collision course with a distant planet, saving it from annihilation. Every act was precise, controlled, and purposeful. Not a single human weapon fired on the envoys' fleet. Yet the message was clear. Humanity could destroy or protect at will. Commander Reyes spoke again, her voice calm but firm. You see our power. You see our fleet. But understand this. We do not seek war. We do not seek control. Our strength exists to preserve life, to create and to survive. That is the essence of humanity. Power is meaningless without purpose, and we choose ours with care. The envoys were silent. For centuries, they had studied civilizations that wielded power for conquest, greed, or fear. They had seen worlds destroyed, species erased, and entire systems enslaved. But here in the human fleet was something entirely new. A species that had mastered forces beyond comprehension, yet had chosen compassion over dominance. Some envoys whispered to one another, their voices trembling. Could we have been wrong? One asked. Could this small species, this fragile planet, truly hold the potential to change the balance of the galaxy? Others shook their heads, unwilling to admit the truth aloud. They had underestimated humanity, and that mistake was already evident in the calm, unwavering confidence displayed before them. Back on Earth, ordinary people looked up at the night sky, feeling only a faint glimmer of what was happening. They could not see the ships in orbit, nor the displays of unimaginable energy, but deep inside many felt a sense of pride. Humanity was standing on the threshold of something greater. Their courage, unity, and resilience were shining in ways even they could not yet comprehend. The revelation was simple yet profound. Humanity was not a species to fear in weakness, nor to underestimate in strength. They were unpredictable, resilient, and capable of actions that could inspire or terrify even the most advanced civilizations. And as the human fleet maintained its silent vigil in space, the envoys began to understand the first truth about Earth's inhabitants. This was not a species that could be controlled, judged, or dismissed. Humanity's story had only begun, and the galaxy had already begun to take notice. The envoys could no longer hide their unease. The humans before them were unlike any species they had ever faced. They possessed unimaginable power, yet they wielded it with restraint. They could have destroyed the envoys' fleet in an instant, but they had not. That restraint was more frightening than any weapon. The galaxy had expected fear, but humans offered something far more dangerous: unwavering confidence. The lead envoy, a towering being with silver skin and eyes like molten stars, spoke first. His voice carried authority and centuries of experience. Humans, he said, You have demonstrated strength and skill beyond comprehension. Yet power without guidance is dangerous. How can we trust you not to use it recklessly? One mistake, one spark of anger, and countless worlds could be destroyed. How can we allow such unpredictability to walk freely among the stars? Admiral Elena Reyes stood firm on the bridge of the lead human ship. Her hands rested lightly on the controls, her eyes steady and unflinching. "We do not seek to harm anyone," she replied. "We ask not for trust blindly, but for recognition. Judge us by our actions, not by fear or assumption. We have learned to survive, to create, and to protect. That is how we wield power. That is humanity." The envoy's voice hardened. "Words are meaningless without proof. Show us that your restraint is more than an act. Demonstrate that your civilization can rise above the selfish impulses that plague all species we have encountered." Reyes nodded. "Very well," she said. "Then watch closely." In the vastness of space, the human fleet shifted again. Ships that had appeared small now seemed larger, as energy patterns flared along their hulls. They demonstrated defensive formations, shields strong enough to withstand stellar explosions. Then, with precision that left the envoys awestruck, humans moved entire clusters of asteroids, guiding them into harmless orbits, displaying their ability to control gravity and motion with ease. Every maneuver was a lesson. Power could be great, but only meaningful when used responsibly, the envoys whispered among themselves. They had faced conquerors, tyrants, and warlords from countless worlds, but never a species that chose morality over dominance. Humans had survived hunger, disease, war, and extinction threats on their own planet, and now they were showing that survival had not hardened them into monsters. It had made them wise. One envoy finally spoke again, his voice tinged with both awe and fear. Perhaps we underestimated you. Your restraint is not weakness. It is strength of a kind we have never seen. Yet the question remains, will all of humanity act with such wisdom, or is this only the careful control of a few leaders?" Reyes' gaze swept across her fleet, and she answered, her voice calm and commanding. "Humanity is flawed, yes. We make mistakes. We stumble. But in every generation, we learn. We rise stronger, wiser, and more compassionate. That is our nature. Our people are capable of great destruction, but also of extraordinary creation. That is why we are worthy of the stars." The envoys fell silent. They had expected defiance, but not this combination of honesty, humility, and power. They had expected fear, but not courage. They had expected chaos, but not order within restraint. Humans had presented a paradox, a species capable of destroying worlds, yet committed to protecting life. Far below, on Earth, people gazed at the sky without realizing the full spectacle. And yet they felt a quiet pride, a collective sense that humanity had begun to step onto a path no other species had walked. Humans were showing the galaxy that power alone did not define worth. Character, courage, and morality did. The challenge had been set. The envoys would judge, but the judgment had already shifted. Humanity was no longer merely a fragile species on a small planet. It was a force, defined not by fear, domination, or conquest, but by something far more formidable, a willingness to act rightly when no one was watching, and to show mercy when it would have been easier to destroy. And in that moment, the galaxy began to understand. Humans were unlike any other. Their challenge was not survival, but recognition, and they had already begun to earn it. The galaxy held its breath as the envoys continued to observe humanity. They had come expecting fear, submission, or even chaos. Instead, they found something far more unsettling, a species small in appearance yet vast in courage, wisdom, and determination. Humanity had passed every unspoken test, not through violence but through restraint, intelligence, and unity. On the bridge of the lead human ship, Admiral Elena Reyes and her crew waited calmly. There was no celebration, no boastful triumph. They had not sought victory. They had sought understanding. And now, as the envoys deliberated, the weight of their actions hung in the silence between the stars. Finally, The lead envoy spoke. His voice was softer than before, carrying a mixture of awe and newfound respect. Humans, your power is unlike any we have ever encountered. You have demonstrated strength beyond imagination, yet you wield it with purpose, with wisdom, and with compassion. You have chosen life over destruction, creation over conquest. That choice is rare in the galaxy. Admiral Reyes inclined her head. We ask nothing more than to be recognized as equals. We do not seek to dominate or control. We only seek a place among the stars, to live, to learn, and to protect those who cannot protect themselves. The envoy paused. He looked at his fellow envoys, and for the first time hesitation replaced certainty. They had believed themselves invincible, confident in the judgment of a species they considered weak. But humans had proved that they were unpredictable, disciplined, and capable of greatness that transcended raw power. After hours of deliberation, the envoys reached a historic decision. They would not enforce their previous warning. They would not demand submission. Instead, they acknowledged humanity as a species worthy of the stars, capable of wielding power with responsibility and integrity. Humanity would be recognized, not as a threat, but as an equal among civilizations. As the decision was transmitted to the human fleet, the ships remained silent, engines pulsing softly in unison. There was no triumphal music, no aggressive celebration, only the quiet pride of a species that had faced judgment and emerged with honor intact. Back on Earth, people gazed up at the night sky without understanding the full extent of the victory. They could not see the fleets, the energy fields, or the silent acknowledgement from the envoys. Yet deep in their hearts, many felt a strange, almost instinctive pride. Humanity had faced the unknown, stared it in the eye, and shown that courage and morality could stand beside power. For the envoys, the experience was transformative. They had expected to judge a primitive species, to enforce their authority, and to maintain order in the galaxy. Instead, they found themselves humbled. They had witnessed the strength of compassion, the resilience of unity, and the quiet, unstoppable force of humanity's spirit. Admiral Reyes spoke to the envoys one last time before they withdrew. We do not seek to impress you. We do not seek to intimidate. We only ask that you remember one thing. Power is meaningless without purpose. Strength is meaningless without restraint. And a species is measured not by its ability to destroy, but by its choice to protect, to create, and to endure. The envoys departed, leaving humanity free to chart its own path among the stars. Their departure was quiet, almost reverent. They would carry the memory of this encounter for centuries, teaching future generations that a small blue planet in a quiet corner of the Milky Way had changed their perception of life, power, and morality forever. Humanity, for its part, returned to Earth, not with arrogance, but with responsibility. They had proven themselves to the galaxy, yet they knew that recognition was only the beginning. The stars were vast, full of civilizations, challenges, and mysteries yet to be discovered. And humanity would face them not with conquest, but with courage, ingenuity, and compassion. The decision had been made. Humanity was no longer underestimated. They were no longer a curiosity to be dismissed. The galaxy had seen their strength, their morality, and their heart, and it would never forget. The envoys had departed, leaving a quiet calm in the vastness of space. Humanity had not only survived the scrutiny of the galaxy, but had risen above it, proving that strength and morality could coexist. For Admiral Elena Reyes and her crew, the moment was not one of victory, but of responsibility. They understood that the galaxy now watched them, not with fear but with respect and with expectations they could not ignore. Back on Earth, life continued, yet nothing was the same. People looked up at the night sky and felt a new connection to the universe. Children dreamed bigger dreams, imagining themselves among the stars. Scientists pushed the boundaries of knowledge further, inspired by the realization that humanity's potential was limitless. Every human on the planet felt in some small way the pride and burden of having shown the galaxy what they were capable of. Humanity's fleets returned to their hidden bases, their ships now symbols of both technological mastery and restraint. No parade celebrated their achievement, for humanity had never measured itself by glory. Their pride was quiet, internal, the deep satisfaction of knowing that they had met a challenge unlike any other and had passed it with honor. The galaxy, however, would not forget. Civilizations that had once viewed humans as insignificant now whispered their names with awe. Scholars debated the implications of a species capable of wielding unimaginable power, yet choosing compassion over conquest. Leaders re-examined their own approaches to control and diplomacy. And somewhere in distant corners of space, young beings from countless worlds began to wonder, could a species like humans exist among us? Could they teach us courage, restraint, and morality in ways we have never imagined? The Council of Stars recorded the encounter in their archives, marking it as a turning point in galactic history. No species had ever been given such a test, and none had responded with such clarity, restraint, and intelligence. Humans had rewritten the rules, not by dominance but by showing that power must always be paired with purpose, and strength must always be guided by compassion. Admiral Reyes, standing once again on the bridge of her ship, gazed at the stars. She felt the weight of her people's responsibility, but also the lightness of their achievement. Humanity had proven that it could survive anything, endure anything, and rise above the challenges that lay ahead. Their power was not just in their ships or weapons, but in their choices, their courage, and their unshakable unity. Across Earth, ordinary people continued their lives, unaware of the precise extent of what had occurred, yet their hearts carried a subtle awareness, a sense that humanity had stepped into a new era. Farmers, teachers, artists, and engineers all shared in this invisible legacy. Every act of creation, every effort to protect, every choice to act with kindness became part of a story that would echo through time and space. The humans who had faced the Envoys returned to their families, to their work, to their studies, carrying with them a memory that would never fade. They had stared into the vastness of the galaxy, faced beings of immense power, and stood unbroken. They had shown that a species could be small and fragile in appearance, yet immense in spirit. And so, humanity began a new chapter. They traveled to distant stars, shared knowledge, healed planets, and helped civilizations grow. They did not conquer or dominate. They guided, they inspired, and they protected. And everywhere they went, the memory of that first encounter lingered, a reminder that courage, intelligence, and compassion were the truest forms of power. In the quiet of space, the envoys whispered to one another, "We were wrong. Humanity is unlike anything we have ever known. Their story is only beginning, and the galaxy will never be the same." The stars shone brighter for Earth that night, as if acknowledging a species that had dared to rise, to prove itself, and to inspire. Humanity had claimed its place among the stars, not through fear or destruction, but through the unstoppable force of the human spirit. And in that force, the galaxy finally saw the truth. Power is nothing without heart, and humanity had both in abundance.